Hello YouTubers and welcome to this video. This is the first video in a series of me presenting some danceband albums, Swedish danceband albums on vinyl that are worth looking for and having a listen to. Danceband music has been a part of my life since I was a toddler because it was frequently played on the radio, and there were usually some danceband records in most record collections back then, even though media people of the largest cities were openly scornful against that horrible commercial shit music that people had a bad taste to pick as music they wanted to dance to and listen to. Today we can add that the same people said the same stuff about ABBA and their music, so let's leave that aside. Tastes differ, and just as there's a lot of crap music in all genres, there is also a lot of good music in all genres, and danceband music is no exception. But what is danceband music? First, we should go into that for those of you who aren't familiar with Swedish music culture. Dance bands were touring groups of usually 5 to 7 musicians who played at venues for dancing, and one dance night they played around 4 or 5 hours non-stop, and the repertoire were mostly covers of the current hits, together with original compositions and maybe some covers of some oldies from the 40s, 50s or 60s. As long as it was easy to dance to and didn't have any complex rhythms and had a proper tempo and so on, it could be used as danceband music. The dance bands had 2 golden ages. One was in the early to mid-70s, when there were loads of dance bands active and touring all over the country, and they recorded and sold an enormous amount of records. The other golden age was in the 1990s, when the popular TV show Bingolotto started having dance bands performing in its shows, which meant more media attention for them and also good record sales. The records that I've picked for these videos are not the most successful ones that sold gold, with maybe some exceptions, but records that I find are a bit more ambitious than the others. Very well recorded, well performed albums that works just as well to listen to as it is to dance to, which is not always the case. So, hope you'll find it somewhat interesting. Let's start with the first one. And it's this album.
Kärleken är precis som melodier, den skiftar mellan moll och mellan dur.
Curt Haagers, Min Symfoni from 1977. Curt Haagers from Gothenburg, they started their career as the pop band The Five Spots back in 1966. But they changed the name to Curt Haagers in 1968, and the name was put together from the names of the members of the band. The pianist Kurt Erik Holmqvist, who left in the late 60s but went on to become a popular pianist in TV in the 70s, 80s and 90s. Drummer Hans Ramberg and guitar player Roger Lundgren, who both would stay in the band until the day the group was disbanded back in 2006. And probably from the bass player Per-Olof Hagren. Anyway, they got their first big break when young former Streeplers singer Robert Andersson, today Robert Lövendahl, joined them. And it was with him as the lead singer and bass player Jan Gunner as backup singer. They recorded their first album in 1973, and they developed a style with good vocals and a strong horn section with a trumpet player Jan-Erik Knudsen as the big star. When Robert Andersson left the band in the mid-70s, the former singer from the Four Seasons-inspired pop band Jackpots, Lars Berntsson, one of the best singers when it comes to singing with a falsetto voice, he joined Curt Haagers, and he would stay for not that long, for 2 albums, a couple of years, before the former Cool Candice singer and bass player Sven-Erik Gisbold took over the vocals in 1981. And would be their lead singer up until 2003, and they would have quite a lot of success with him. But Anyway, this album contains the lineup with Lars Berntson's tenor and falsetto lead vocals dominating the soundscape. This album, Symfoni, was recorded in 1977, as I said, and it was Curt Haagers' fourth album. The first for fellow Gothenburg band Striplers label Bohus Gramophone. And Bohus was also a studio that had a very certain sound, and many Swedish artists and bands recorded there. ABBA did some recordings there. Well, not just Swedish, Status Quo went to Bohus studio in Kungälv outside Gothenburg to record. It is noticeable that Curt Haagers wanted to create a very powerful sound for this album, since they got one of the best arrangers in Sweden, Sven-Olof Waldorf, who conducted ABBA's Waterloo dressed as Napoleon. Those of you who have seen it, you may remember it. To write the arrangements, and Lars Holm, one of the leading Swedish songwriters of the 70s and 80s, delivered some very well-written original songs for the album. Curt Haagers produced the album together with the former rock star Gert Längstrand from the Striplers. There are many Striplers connection here, and we'll get back to that later. So, the team, Lars Holm and Gert Längstrand, they wrote 5 of the album's 12 tracks, and the title track, Min Symfoni. That's a song that Lars Holm had presented some years earlier with a different title and other lyrics for the singer Per-Olof Petrén to record without any major commercial impact. That starts out the album in a grandiose manner, followed by a well-interpreted cover of the Rubettes hit track from 1974, Tonight. Very few other Swedish dance bands at that time would have succeeded with doing covers of Rubettes with their demanding harmonies. Holm Längstrand then delivers the track Sommaren med Mary, The Summer with Mary, which became a popular dance band standard in 1977, also recorded by Vikingar and many other bands. Then the same team present their own Rubettes-styled song, Ge mig din kärlek, which works fine, but it's maybe should have been placed not as close to Tonight, since two songs that are rather close to each other on the album, in style, has the same shwaddy-waddy vocals. Anyway, it's a well-written song with some great falsetto singing by Lars Berntsson. After that, a cover of Neil Diamond's Red, Red Wine and the song Don Juan, written and recorded by the rather forgotten Lang Martin Jr. on the Playboy label back in '76. I've not seen any signs of the song becoming popular outside Sweden, but there were some Swedish dance bands who decided to record versions of the song. I haven't found any real recordings of that. I can't see it uploaded anywhere, so not on YouTube either. So it's probably a quite scarce song, even though it was quite popular here in Sweden. Alright, side B starts with a rather sunny summer song by the team of Holm Längstrand, Sommarkärlek, and then the obvious dance band cover of 1977. No, not Anarchy in the UK, I'm talking about Moody Blue. It was the final year of Elvis Presley, and Moody Blue was quite a successful song to many dance bands. Made covers of it. Then Curt Haagers presented a very inspired cover version of Bee Gees' Come On Over that I think, but then I'm not a Bee Gees fan, far from it, especially not their falsetto years. I think Curt Haagers' version is much better than the Bee Gees original, but then Lars Berntsson is a very much better falsetto singer than any one of the Bee Gees. After that, it's time for the final Holm Längstrand original, and that might be, my friends, the strongest of these original tracks, namely a song called Lite Fantasi. is a song that deserved a better fate since it didn't become a hit and it was hidden away on the B-side of this album. The future Curt Haagers singer Sven-Erik Gisbol released his new band Gisbol's first and only album the same year and recorded Lite Fantasy as well, but didn't manage to get a hit either. The Manhattan Transfer hit Chanson d'amour was then included on this album. Another obvious cover, and they ended the album with the cover of the mid-60s rock hit Cadillac. Mostly known for being a big hit with the Swedish rock band the Hepstars in 1965, but originally it was a hit by the British band the Renegades, who had a Finland hit with it. Yeah, in Finland. Well, nice way to end the record, although not one of the most amazing moments. I first heard this album in the mid-1980s when I bought it, and this is actually the same copy. I have listened to it many times and found many small details in the arrangements and musical performances that shows that it's a very ambitious project. Curt Haagers wanted to impress with this album, and I think they did that very well. Like many dance bands' albums that I may present in this series, the album didn't sell that well, and one reason is that it was recorded at a time when the interest in dance band music was fading. The years dance band records sold best was 1972 to 76. By 77, disco music started to take over the attention of the Swedish youth who wanted to go out, dance and have fun. And the dance band music was, in many cases, music directed at the youth in the 70s. But when newer generations of youth took over, it wasn't as obvious to dance band music, when there were much cooler DJs who brought the cool disco music from USA to the Swedish dance floors on these 7-inch records. Also, it was cheaper for the owners of the dance hall venues to book a DJ than a full orchestra for obvious reasons, and there were less gigs available for the dance bands in the late 70s and early 80s, so many dance bands quit. Still, most of the famous dance bands who had been successful in the 70s would survive the dance band deaths, and Curt Haagers would get a new commercially successful era with the singer Sven-Erik Gisbol, as I mentioned before, in the 80s and 90s, but that's a different story. If you want to listen to this album and you're not in Sweden, it can be tricky to get hold of this actual record. It's not impossible to find an original vinyl, but it may take some time since it didn't sell that amazingly well back then. But it is rarely that expensive when you actually find it, since it's not really collectible, so to speak. It has never been issued on CD, but it's available on both Spotify, iTunes and Google Play. There aren't any private YouTube uploads of this album, but if you search the album on YouTube, you can listen to it at least in some countries, since Warner Music Group has provided it. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for watching.